President Donald Trump is the most consequential president of the past 40 years. His only real competition just prior to that, Ronald Reagan. And if you don't believe that, you're not being honest or paying attention. And there are several reasons. But the biggest, obviously, is the Supreme Court. On Thursday, the Supreme Court shot down a New York State law that required those seeking to carry a concealed weapon show they had an extraordinary need to do so. They had to prove they needed it. The court, with 3 Trump appointees, disagreed. In a 6-3 ruling authored by Justice Clarence Thomas, the court held that previous high-profile decisions in the Second Amendment were correct and consistent with an individual's right to carry in public for self-protection. And the New York law making it nearly impossible to carry a gun in public for self-defense was, quite simply, unconstitutional. It's been there for 100 years. More on the strengthening of the Second Amendment in a minute, but first, back to what I just said a moment ago. President Donald Trump, the most consequential president in half a century, and the reason is the Supreme Court. Trump made 3 appointments to the nation's high court, something that is exceedingly rare in American history for a one-term president. It came at a most critical time when it seems our Constitution is under attack almost every day from one radical group or another. To be honest, however, I have to admit President Trump didn't do this all by himself, and you have to bear with me. Because I know a lot of you don't like this, but you have to be honest. If we're going to be engaged in this conversation, you and I, we have to be honest with each other. So I have to give credit to Mitch McConnell on this one, because it was Mitch McConnell who blocked Merrick Garland. He did. From getting a seat during the waning months of Barack Obama's tenure. That is critical. We know what Merrick Garland is now. Can you imagine what the court would be like with Merrick Garland sitting on the bench? Wholly different. Mitch McConnell held that seat vacant until after Donald Trump was elected president. It ended up, of course, being filled by Justice Neil Gorsuch, who has voted with the conservatives on several high-profile cases, most of them, in fact. It was McConnell who was also able to muscle through Amy Coney Barrett to replace the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg just days before the 2020 election. And that cemented Trump's legacy for building the most conservative Supreme Court since before the Great Depression. I want you to think about that again. It is the most conservative court in almost 100 years. And we are, of course, still waiting on the biggest case of all, the Dobbs case, that was leaked to Politico weeks ago with a draft opinion showing a clear rejection of Roe versus Wade and a rejection of the 1973 decision that allowed abortions across the nation, tossed out dozens of laws across all 50 states related to abortion. That ruling, when it comes, which could be today, and if it does indeed deliver the conclusion as first published by Politico, this would be the most consequential term for the Supreme Court in decades as well. Hard to argue that. I mean, consider the ruling in favor of private religious schools getting public money from the states, solidifying the rights of American citizens to self-defense with guns concealed in public, and overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade abortion decision. That's just a few of the opinions handed down. And all at a time when the guy who replaced Donald Trump is flailing in office, suffering the worst approval numbers for a second-year president ever. The Democrats, the socialists, and the far-left extremists are going to erupt in the coming days. You'll see more violence, like the attack on Michigan Congressman Tim Walberg's office that happened this week, or the attacks on charity groups and churches that help women who are in crisis because of unintended pregnancies. You'll also see attacks on police. Well, just because that's what leftists do. Imagine what's going to happen when conservatives take control of the country back and decide to close the border and enforce the actual laws of this nation. Man, they'll go bonkers for sure then, won't they? Oh, and one more thing, let me be clear. I'm not some kind of Mitch McConnell fanboy. In fact, as a general rule, I don't like him much at all. Just yesterday, he and 14 other senators, weak-willed Republicans, joined Democrats that voted in favor of brand new red flag laws. Those, however, could also be in jeopardy. Struck down. Why? because of President Donald Trump and the Supreme Court. So when you realize that your right to defend yourself is stronger than ever today, that your religious rights are stronger than ever today, and that abortion may no longer be something that can be dictated by left-wing extremists who want the government to pay for it, by those left-wing extremists who manipulated the system to make it happen in the first place, just say 4 simple words, would you please? Thank you, President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. And if you keep yourself together and vote in all important elections like the midterms now, and again in 2024, we might just save this thing yet. We might just save this thing we call America. God bless America, who's with me, I'm telling you. All right, now let's focus on that gun decision a bit more. We need to focus on that a bit more. Whoopi Goldberg and the histrionic staff at The View took the Supreme Court's ruling on guns as about as well as you'd expect. Their heads just about exploded right on camera. Here's Whoopi. Listen.
Right before we went on air, the Supreme Court handed down their decision that will allow New Yorkers to carry concealed firearms, striking down a centuries-old state law that made people have to prove that they had due cause to conceal and carry. Now, people are still processing all of this. The implications, we don't know really what it actually means, but, you know, given everything New York City is going through, it seems, I don't even have the words, it seems stupid. No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. It's not even stupid. It is. It's such a middle finger to New York.
Is that what it is? A middle finger to New York? Is that what it is? Well, we've got a lot more on this coming up because we want to break down the breakdown of the left. Boy, they had a tough day. Again. Oh, by the way, Joe Biden's approval numbers, the lowest they've been yet. He is 17 points in the hole. That's the aggregate. 17 points in the hole is Joe Biden. His approval numbers, 39%. His disapproval numbers, 56%. By the way, the latest disapproval numbers from Reuters, 58. Quinnipiac, 58. Rasmussen, 59. Approval numbers, 35% from Quinnipiac. 36% from Reuters. It's getting tough out there. More about the Second Amendment and the Supreme Court after this on the Steve Gruber Show. Don't go anywhere.